Hey everybody, what's up? Mr. Dissonance here, and I'm going to talk to you about a topic which I hope will interest quite a few aspiring heads-up players, and that is playing professionally. And even if you don't have any plans to play professionally, you can still get a lot from this because you can learn some of the professional attitudes and traits that you can have, and they can improve your game as an amateur. So as you can see, I've got about 7 things that I'll be talking about. Commitment, game selection, software, your mental game, your work environment, improving, and balance. And I will just get on with them and start talking to you about them. So, commitment. Well, before I get into this, let me just start off by saying that poker can be a fantastic job. You can make good money, you make fantastic friends, you can keep your own hours, and you don't have a boss, don't have to turn up wearing a suit and tie. It can just be a fantastic job. But there are some downsides, and commitment is going to cover some of those. The first thing I'll say about commitment is this sentence that I wrote: you play poker, you don't play at being a professional poker player. The thing is that poker's a kind of a strange profession because everybody you play against is trying to take your money, which when you think about it is weird. Like if you work a normal job, your co-workers and clients are normally cooperating with you, and poker is a very combative environment. They're trying to take cash off you. So that's a little weird, and because of that, to do it, you have to be really, really good, and to be really good, you have to be committed. It's unlikely that you'll be good enough to be a professional poker player in today's poker playing environment if you don't put a lot of work into it. So that's why I say, you can play poker, but don't play it being professional. You have to be committed, you have to be improving, you have to do everything right to give yourself a chance to succeed. And that's kind of what this video is about. What are all the things that you have to do to give yourself the best chance to succeed? All right, the other thing you should consider is the opportunity cost of playing poker. While it can be a fantastic job, as I mentioned, if you do it for 2 or 3 years and decide that you want to then go back into the mainstream workplace, or even 4 or 5 years and want to go back, you're going to have a pretty big hole in your CV, and that's not going to be easily explained with "I was a self-employed entrepreneur." People want more information than that. When it comes out that you've been a poker player, some people may appreciate that, but the vast majority of people actually look down on the profession, and therefore if you do commit to poker, it can make things a lot more difficult if it doesn't work out. So you better make sure it succeeds. Other opportunity costs would be the fact that you don't have a healthcare plan or insurance. And just the very nature of the game kind of encourages people to gamble, and a lot of poker players develop life leaks, such as spending large amounts of money or playing EV minus games, sports betting, large prop bets, that sort of thing. And all of this can decrease your success as a poker player, and could be the difference between you making it and not making it. So that's what I'm talking about with opportunity costs and the other related effects. All right, finally, some practical advice here. You need a deep role to be a professional. The deeper your role is, the less money pressure you've got, the more relaxed you can be about the downswings, the better you can play. If you put yourself under money pressure, well, that's the time you can be sure that things are going to go bad. You'll start running bad, you'll start running worse, and most likely you'll start tilting. If you don't normally tilt, you can start because you're under money pressure. And if you tilt a little bit, you're more likely to tilt a lot more when you're under money pressure because, well, just the pressure will make you tilt. So take that money pressure away. I would suggest that if you're playing poker, you want at least 6 months' salary. And before you consider playing, your poker income should be at least twice your monthly nut. And your monthly nut is the amount of bills, the expected bills that you'll have every month. So for example, if your monthly nut is $2,000, I would want to be earning at least 4,000 from poker before I even considered becoming a professional. Don't make the mistake of saying, well, I earn $1,500 a month on average at the moment, and I'm playing part-time. I'm going to play full-time, so I'll earn, I'm going to play 3 times as much. I'll earn 4.5K, and even though my monthly nut is 3K, I'll be okay. It doesn't really work like that. You can't just magically say, I'll put in more hours and make more money. A lot of the time when you're putting in more hours, it's diminishing returns. You're tireder, you're not playing as well. You can start going from winning to losing, which means that you now have to put in more hours to make up for it, and so on. It can be a bit of a vicious cycle. The early hours that you put in when you're fresh, I think, are worth more than the tired hours when you're not fresh. Now, the tired hours can still be profitable, but perhaps not as profitable, and therefore you can't just say put in 3 times as many hours, make 3 times as much money. So be aware of that. So get yourself a deep roll, have 6 months salary put away so that you're not under money pressure, and be earning twice as much as you need at least before you consider poker as a profession. All right, let's go and talk about the next topic. Game selection. All right, so first question I'd like to address here is, as heads-up players, what should we be playing? Hypers, turbos, or reg speeds? And I think the easiest way to look at this is to have a look at the SharkScope leaderboard and see what the majority of players on there are playing. But before we do that, I'll just mention a few of the pluses and minuses. Reg speed, the action is very slow at the moment. You will have a big edge against fish, but there are quite a few regs who will sit each other just because action gets slow. Turbos, it's not quite so bad. They run pretty freely up to the 60s and reasonably the hundreds. Above that, not so many recreational players. And hypers, of course, have the most action. Other things to consider: hypers, you need a deeper roll because there's greater variance, and of course greater variance can be a lot more stressful. Turbos, not quite so much variance in it. Reg speeds, even less. But basically, I would consider the most important factor how much action you're getting, and also the hypers play higher in the sense that there's lots of hundreds running, probably about 4 times as many as there are turbos. There'll be 200s running where there are hardly any turbos running. So basically, there's more action at the $100, $200, $300 level, and 501k, of course, in hypers than there are in turbos. All right, let's have a look at the SharkScope leaderboard, and we'll go look at the $36 to $100 level, because that's the sort of level where you'd start to think, well, I could be making enough money to play poker as a profession. So I'll bring that up here in Firefox. Alrighty, and we'll just have a look at the players here. Captain Crunch, hypers, Big Papa Linland. I think he's playing, I know he plays hypers, I think he might play some turbos as well. This guy here is on the .fr site, so I'm not sure, but I don't think hypers are particularly beatable with that rake structure, so most likely he's playing turbos. This guy's reg speeds, Magnum, hypers, and one of my students, Levin Hostar. I thought he was, let me have a quick check. I had a feeling that he was reg speeds, was he? Let's have a look. I might be wrong, he might be hypers. Alright, yeah, so he's hypers. Just flick back there. So basically, another hyper guy, Inner97 is hypers and one of my students. Love Plus, I was pretty sure he was hypers, am I wrong? Anyway, this guy's hypers, hypers, hypers. H Neves, one of my students, hypers. And Jig for me, hypers. Switch, I'm not sure about, but would be surprised if he wasn't hypers. Let's have a quick look at him. What's his story? He's playing, okay, he's playing reg speeds. So there's another reg speeds guy, and then Jane K at the top there is turbos and reg speeds or whatever. So the point is probably, I don't know, at a guess, 80% of the guys on this list are playing hypers. Hypers are really where the money's at, so that would be what I would be considering if I was going to play professionally. I'd probably be looking at getting into hypers. If you're playing turbos now and you're doing okay at them, you'll probably make more money playing hypers. And all the hyper players will hate me for giving that advice, but it's true. Alright, the next topic here, playing regs. Well, isn't this an interesting topic, or at least I think so. I have so many friends that get in the reg battles. I tend not to so much. And one of the most famous ones, I'll tell you his story, we'll call him Jimmy, which is not his real name. Jimmy was going for SNE, and he's a good player. He's playing at decent levels like 200s and 300s, and he would never play regs before he started going for Supernova Elite. And then once he decided to do that, he realized he wasn't getting enough action, started sitting a lot of the regs, and came across a guy who, once he made it clear that he was going to sit this player would just give him as much action as he could handle. And in the end, neither of them were making money, which is so often the case with regs, but the guy wouldn't stop sitting him, and they've probably played maybe by now 4,000 games against each other, both of them losing money. And now Jimmy can't sit a 200 or 300 lobby in this guy's time zone, or he just gets insta-sat by the guy and they both lose money. But as in the words of Jimmy, this guy's a psycho and won't leave me alone. But Jimmy brought it upon himself. So if you play regs, you might have an edge against them, but because they're regs, they will eventually catch on to what you're doing and the edge will decrease, and it's quite likely it might decrease to the stage where neither of you are making money. That's not necessarily true, but it's quite likely. So because of that, I would be reluctant to play regs, especially if you're playing hypers. If you are playing hypers at the $30, $60 or $100 level and you sit regs, you're an idiot. You could be making a lot more money playing fish. You'll have enough same time sits against regs that you play regs enough to improve your game, and playing regs is not the greatest way to play your game. Study, get coaching from better players, etc. Don't fall into this trap of constantly playing regs. As I've said, it is stupid. So above that level, I can understand where there are less recreational players that you might want to play them, but at the $100 level or below, just don't bother playing regs. Just make money and don't be dumb. Alright, the final point here, which is a really basic one. How do you get recreational players? You sit first in the lobbies. Good players sit first and recreational players generally sit second, which means the lobbies are worth a lot of money. And we'll talk about that in more detail about how you can get lobbies using special software programs. But this is enough for the first free video on being a pro, and I'll go and cover some more of those topics in video 2. Hope you've enjoyed it, and until the next one, run good.